Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan here from the Rocks and Stocks News website. Today, I've got a very good show for you. Gold is down. I think that's a temporary thing based on the new Fed chairman, the same as the old Fed chairman. And I think I can make a pretty good argument for the price of gold to go up. And I've got a great group of companies that will participate in a stronger price of gold. So I'm going to get right to it, and I'm going to add my share my screen here, and we're going to start with Pretium, or sorry, not Pretium. Pretium is the company I followed for many years, and recently they've gone through a takeover. But that's one of the things that I think is very bullish for the price of gold. The first thing are the takeovers are very positive for the. There's been several of those of late, and I think it's a very good sign that gold is going to head higher. But today, as you can see on the chart, it got smacked down pretty good on the news that the Fed chairman is going to remain as Powell. There was some speculation that he might be removed, but I don't think that this really makes much of a difference. Right here, you've got the 1-year chart on a daily basis. And as you can see here, it made a high of about $1,912 in June. It then proceeded to bottom out and started to go up the right side. There's a crucial point here that I want to point out, is that it's been making some higher lows. As you can see here, here was the low, was kind of a double bottom after that high. Then it made a higher low. It's making a higher low here. I think it will be very bullish to see that higher low stay above $1,800, which I think it will. It's looking pretty oversold on the news that Powell will retain his position as the Fed chairman. But I think the new Fed chairman is same as the last few Fed chairmans. They are very accommodative, and I don't think anything is going to change. I think it's going to continue to be bullish for gold. One of the strongest arguments I can make is the supply and demand scenario. The fact that there's been several takeovers of late, I think, is a sign that the majors want to secure future supply, but that doesn't really do much on the new discovery end of things and the new development of new mining side of things. And so I think that that's very bullish on a supply side argument. On the demand side, you've got strong demand coming in, and a lot of this has to do with points that I'll make later. But I'd also like to make the point that this bullish supply and demand scenario for gold is also the same situation for silver, copper, lithium. They all have strong demand, but not a lot of strong supply. And I think that makes a very strong argument for gold, silver, copper, and lithium. The best performing of those of late has been lithium, but you can also look at the price of copper. And copper had started the year, a year ago, was trading under $3 a pound, went as high as $4.80 a pound, has given back some of that gain, but is retaining it and going kind of sideways around the 430 level. It did pop up in the last month or so, and then has given back some of those gains. But I think that with the story on demand for electric vehicles, as well as the rewiring that's needing to take place to feed that demand for electric vehicles, I think is very positive for the demand going forward for electrical vehicles, and rewiring the aging grids, power grids on the industrialized nations. The United States needs rewiring. That's going to take a lot of copper. Europe needs rewiring. That's going to take a lot of copper. And then you've got the copper that needs to get out to the consumers, and to bring that electrification of vehicles to the masses. So you've got a very good demand and not a lot of supply out there. I'm going to talk about one copper company, and that's the same case why lithium has been so strong, is that you need batteries to get that power to the electrical vehicles, and also other alternative fuel energy sources. And so and then you've got silver that also participates in that demand for copper and lithium for the batteries and new technologies. And it's been making a nice round, nice cup formation as well. And I think that I'm going to go back to gold here, and I want to go to a monthly chart, because that gives you a good indication of what's been happening since, if you go back to the late 1970s, gold made a big cup formation. In the 2011, 2012, it reached the peak, and then has been creating another cup and handle. And this is one of the key things that I think is going to drive gold a lot higher. I think our next move is well over $2,000 an ounce. This is sort of a classic cup and handle. But if you look back here to the 1970s to the 2011, that cup was kind of tilted upwards on a bullish bias. And I think that that's what we're going to see here, is a second cup from the highs in 2011, 2012. That, that move from the highs was a double. And I think that we can double again from there. So, that's talking about, 3,500 to 4,000 an ounce gold. And some of the reasons that I think that's going to happen is that I think that the setup, it may be better than the one that happened from 2001 with gold around 248, that took it all the way up to 1900 and change. I think this setup we're having right now could be even a stronger argument. You've got the US dollar printing has gone has gone crazy. 140% or 40% of the dollars that have ever been printed have been printed in the last year. That's just remarkably out of control US dollar printing. You've got also debt out of control. Now debt is trading at about 150% of the GDP. That is just outrageous for the United States, which is the leading economy in the world, to be, living on that much debt. Inflation, as according to the Fed, has gone from transitory to frustrating. I don't know what comes after frustrating, but I think we're going to see some troublesome inflation kicking in. key components to inflation growing are wage pressures and also in commodity prices. With the argument I made earlier on copper, it's also the case for several other commodities. So I think the commodities are going to continue to put pressure on inflation. You've got the supply chains in trouble with ships all outside the industrialized nations sitting in ports. They can't find the workers to unload them, to move them, to get them out to the end consumers. And I think that that's going to lead to more inflation in wages to those truckers and the people on the docks. They want higher wages, and they're going to get them because they need to go higher to meet this supply problems that they're having. And so I think that we're going to see troublesome inflation, which is, all of these are very good arguments for the price of gold to go higher. The Federal Reserve is really painted into a corner that they can't get out of. They have to have zero real interest rates and negative interest rates for the foreseeable future. If they were to raise interest rates in any significant way, they would put a halt to all economic growth, and they have no interest in doing that. So I think we've got a lot of arguments for gold, silver, copper, lithium to go much higher. And I'm going to get on to talking about some of the companies that I think are well positioned to move higher. As I mentioned earlier, Pretium. Pretium is a company that is in that I've started following when they were $3 a share. They've got an $18+ a share takeout. And as I mentioned, that's a good indicator that the majors need to buy. They can't build them, and therefore they have to buy. And I just don't think that there's enough money going into exploration and new mine development. Although I do have a couple that I'm going to talk about that I think are future mines. And let's start with Amex Exploration. Amex Exploration, as you can see, has made a high about just a little less than a year ago at around $4 a share. It's following this cup and handle kind of action. And I think the developments with the drill rig, as well as the price of gold going higher, will help them make new highs over the next 6 months. I think that they'll see new highs. Some of their recent news, going to pull up their website here. Couple of their recent news releases that I think are very important to talk about today. They had a news release out on November the 11th that they reported 8.2 grams of gold over 44.8 meters and 1.22 grams per ton gold over 64 meters. Now, they've got kind of two sets of targets here. One is close to surface. That's the Denise zone. And that one looks like it's going to be an open pit. What I really like about these results is, in addition to the high grade, the open pit target grades, 8.25 grams over 44 meters, 1.2 grams over 64 meters. There's just a whole slew of them. The point I want to make is that even if you take out the high grade, which these have high grade distributions in that open pit target, the open pit grades are quite exceptional. These days, 0.5 gram per ton gold is what makes up a lot of the open pit targets. And they've got, as you can see in this table over here, they've got several much higher than that. So I think not only do they have a tremendous open pit target at this Denise zone that you can see in this image, but their high grade zone is really what excites me the most. And why that excites me the most is because you're seeing grades at their high grade zone, 43 grams of over in their high grade zone over 7 meters. They've got others here that 79 grams over 6 meters. What makes this high grade zone so exceptional to me is the continuity of that high grade. And I think that that in combination with their open pit target is going to make them a takeover target of the future. Adding to that, they've also found a high grade copper discovery in a VMS deposit on their Perron project as well. And so not only do they have the high grade zone, they've got the Denise zone that's a open pit target, and they've got copper. It just boggles my mind that this company has a $2.5 billion or $252 million valuation. Many of their peers with high grade discoveries in Canada are looking at valuations north of $500 million and even over $1 billion. I think this one has that kind of potential, and so has a little less risk of a pure exploration company, but has exposure to that high grade continuity at their high grade zone, the great continuity of high grade, low grade, if you will, at their open pit target, and now copper coming on as well. These guys are very busy with their drill rig, and I think you're going to see a lot of news out of them in the near future. Now, the next company I want to talk about is a producer. They are also a sponsor of my website, like Amex Exploration, and that company is i-80 Gold. IAU is their stock symbol. They've just had well, let's look at, so they're not that old. They're less than a year old. They were flatlining for several months, and then they've recently broken out. From their August lows, they've broken out quite substantially. Now they're kind of digesting that big move. But if we take a look at their news releases, I think there's a very strong argument that that trend to go much higher is going to go to accelerate in the near term. So as you can see from the highlights, i-80 Gold intersects high-grade gold in underground drilling at their Granite Creek. Then they put out a PEA at their Granite Creek. That contemplates shipping the ore to the joint venture between Newmont and Barrick. And they have recently acquired their own processing facility. So and even with that shipping, they're still looking at a 33% IR, internal rate of return, which in mining terms is very good IRR. And they can bring the CapEx down and the OpEx down. And I think you're going to see a future preliminary economic assessment that makes these numbers even better. Then they announced in November 16th, they announced that they intersected high-grade gold in their expansion drilling. I talked about this recently. As you can see, 12.8 grams over 6 meters, 16 grams over 7 meters, 14 grams over 10 meters, and 16 grams over 5 meters. And this wasn't infill drilling. This was expansion drilling. So that's very impressive. And then just earlier today, they announced that they're proceeding with their planned underground and advanced exploration program at their 100% owned McCoy Cove property. McCoy Cove is one of their 4 projects currently being advanced. It's a key project in their company's business plans to restart that Lone Tree processing facility. That also includes an autoclave. So this makes it so that they can produce sulfide material as well. And there's only a couple of those in all of Nevada. They will construct an underground decline and level that will include multiple drill bays and to upgrade their resource and complete a feasibility study. So lots of good news out of I-80 on a regular basis. I've had you and Downey on several interviews. You can find those at, if you go to my YouTube channel, look for Rocks and Stocks News. That's all one word, Rocks and Stocks News. Hit on the upload section and you'll see all the interviews that I've done with Ewan lately. Those started when the stock was trading at about $2.40. It's now trading at $2.98. I think this one's headed a lot higher. I don't think that they've even received the Nevada premium yet. And I like their prospects to go much higher. Another new producer that's about to bring their mine online in the not too distant future is Orla. OLA is their stock symbol. And they're actually fairly close to where I live here in Zacatecas, Mexico. Even on a down day for gold, they're up. I've been following this company for a couple of years, down when they started at around $1 a share. They're currently trading at $5.43 a share. You can see for the last year or so, they've been kind of going sideways. And that's because they're late into the development discount window. This is part of the Lassonde curve that Pierre Lassonde talks about a lot. They're within months of turning, actually, I think in December, they start production and moving it into full-scale production early into 2022. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. You know, he talks about 2 key points in the Lassonde curve. One is when they make a discovery. The second is when they bring it into production. And if you go, we'll go to their website. That's orlamining.com, O-R-L-A. Their symbol is OLA. Just last week, they announced a third quarter results and provides their Camino construction update. Here's some of the highlights. Camino Rojo construction is progressing and on schedule and is 89% complete. They'll be 96% complete in the next 9 days or so. The construction remains on budget. It has, their capital expenditures, 24.3 million in the current quarter. The total is 106 million. Their estimate is for 134 million. So they're right on schedule. And as they say, construction remains on schedule. Overliner ore material was placed on the heap leach pad and ore stacking began in early October in preparation for cyanide leaching, which is expected to begin in mid-November. So only a few short weeks from now, and they'll be leaching gold out of their oxide deposit. They have 529 workers at the Camino Rojo project. They have a whole lot of highlights here. You can, and I suggest you do look at that in their most recent news release. Orla is one that I think is very exciting for that second of the Lassonde curves, which is the production side of the Lassonde curve. And it's just weeks away from starting. The next company I'm going to talk about is a sponsor of my website, True Precious Metals. True Precious Metals, we're going to go to their their website, and we're going to look in the news section. And their last news release out was just a few short days ago. They mentioned that True Precious Metals moves to drilling their King George IV area of the Golden Rose project after discovering more visible gold grains at surface. The highlights are a 500 by 400 meter IP anomaly identified with near pristine gold grains on their shoreline project. They call that the KG4 target. Larger, approximately 1.5 kilometer by 1.1 shaped, horseshoe-shaped IP anomaly identified near a cluster of quartz stockwork containing chalcopyrites, phallerite, pyrite, and pyrrhotite. Till sampling in KG4 yielded numerous anomalous values over a half a gram, including 1.7 grams, coincident with that IP anomaly. And this is the first ever drill program at KG4. Barry Green is the VP of Property Development. He's a geologist. He stated, as I quote, "As we take a pause to await assay results from our drilling at the Wood Lake Gold Zone, including drill core with visible gold, we are excited to now have moved drilling to the never before drilled KG4. Between these new till sampling results showing significantly more visible gold grains at KG4 and the IP survey delineating clear drill targets, we believe that we are vectoring in on the potential source of the earlier visible gold grains we discovered and announced on July the 14th, 2020. We are very encouraged that these samples contain higher gold concentrations," end quote. I don't blame Barry for being very excited. I'm very excited. And the reason is that this Golden Rose project is part of the Valentine Lake Shear Zone. This is a large crustal structure that to their north is the Valentine Lake project owned by Marathon. That's a 3 million ounce resource and 1 million ounces in the inferred category that's moving towards mine permitting. So we know that this is a very fertile, deep structure. And what helped them to find the Marathon Gold's discovery was that they looked they found visible gold and gold occurrences in close proximity to that deep structure. And that shouldn't be lost on True Precious Metals, because that's exactly what they're finding on their property. They recently announced visible gold in their drilling at the north or south end of their property, which is at a key structural area where there's kind of two hinge zones. And they drilled near one of those hinge zones and found visible gold in their drilling. That hole remains pending. And I think that could be a very important hole. But then they've got this project, this target north of there, where they've got the horseshoe IP anomaly. They've got pristine gold grains, and they're about to do the first ever drilling on that target. Very excited about both of those target areas. And I think investors should be as well, because this is a discovery in the making with the potential for more discoveries. And the company only has a $13 million valuation with 66 million shares out. I really like that kind of a setup. Okay, so the next company I want to talk about is the company where I'm the CEO. I wanted to bring in a lithium company for you. Our most recent news is that, go to the news section here, Advance announces private placement financing. That should be closed here in the next couple of days. And that's going to net about $400,000. We're in an area where it doesn't cost a lot to do exploration. And what we're going to target is, let's go to our lithium section. Here you can see a picture, you can see all of our salars from the Google Earth. And as you can see, there's a series of salars. We have 13 of these salars. Three to five of them have elevated over 400 ppm gold in them, such as Chapala, 300. And this is this is near surface sampling with an auger drill that only went down 1 meter. And right at the surface, you've got 306 ppm, grams, 355, 620 grams in the first half a meter, along with over 1%, an average of over 1% lithium. Where's the next one? Agrito, 229 grams, 225, 350, with over 1.5% average potassium. At Colorado, 382 grams per ton, 234, 239, with again an average grade of over 1.5% potassium. Here's another one. That was Agrito. Let's get down to, that was Colorado, sorry. El Perdido, 271 grams, 250 grams with a 1% average potassium. Maxi, 380 grams, 261, 262, 259 with probably about an average of 1.25% potassium. So what the plan is to use some of the funding that we're going to close on, and we're going to go into 3 or 4 of those higher grade ones, and we're going to drill a hole into each one of them. What I want to show is that the continuity of those grades, and that they get richer as you get deeper. And so we'll do an angled hole across them and to cut in, and we may find bedrock with an angled hole. It may stay open for expansion at depth. What we're going to do with that core is I want to send some of that core off for assaying at a Canadian lab to show the grade distribution. And also we're going to send some of that core to our lab run by Dr. Garibay. Dr. Garibay is the one who invented the new extraction process that's recently had a patent filed for it, and we have the rights to use that on all of our salars. We're going to get him to run it through the test, the lab level testing. And what we want to show with that lab level testing is that using extraction through electrical process and then organic compounds to extract the lithium and potassium, we want to show recovery rates, low costs, and also we'll send some of that material off for purity testing. So we can show that we come out with a very high purity product at the end. And then we're going to start moving towards bulk sampling to show this process on a larger scale. So the AAX has a very modest valuation, 3.92 million or 3.62 million valuation. And if you look at all the other lithium companies out there, they have very much greater than 100 to 500 million valuations. They're more advanced than us, but I think that with this work we're doing, we can advance it quite a bit more rapidly and move into those categories that these companies with much higher valuations have. So stay tuned for more news from my company, AAX. Alrighty. So now let's get on to some of the companies that I follow that are not sponsors of my website, but are picks of mine because I like what they found. Azimut started picking this at less than $1, trades at $1.50 right now. Let's go to their website. Azimut just had some news out. Just give it a second here. The website doesn't want to cooperate. There, it cooperated. And let's go to their most recent news. Azimut drills 122 grams of gold, 160 grams of silver over half a meter within their 2-kilometer long target parallel to the Pat-1 project. Now, Pat-1 is the one that made the stock move up quite nicely. Now they're drilling parallel to that, and they've got another discovery of high-grade gold that remains wide open. Take a look at their news release. You can see the details. The mineralized intercept is related to centromatric quartz veinlets with visible gold, pyrite, and tourmaline. It's located almost at the end of the hole, indicating the possibility for it to get wider as you go further to the south. It's hosted in a shear, Gabbro, about 200 meters south of the shear that hosts the Pat-1 gold zone. They found it through prospecting, that one of their grab samples had 77 grams and 100 of gold. And as you can see, this is an important thing that one of my mentors in geology always told me is a lot of times those high-grade surface samples don't bear fruit when you drill deeper. In fact, in this case, they got higher grade when they drilled deeper. They stated also that the target zone is already entirely covered by quality data, high-resolution magnetic, geophysics, induced polarization, IP, till survey data, and that will be used to optimize follow-up core drilling. In addition, several poorly outcropping parts of the target zone will be subject to systematic reverse circulation during the winter to sample the bedrock surface. So get underneath that poorly exposed outcrop. The drilling program will use 300-meter spaced drilling fences with 20-meter spaced holes along those fences. So they're really rolling up their sleeves at Pat-1 and this parallel zone. I expect to see a lot more good results from Azimut that will help take their valuation higher. Okay, the next company I want to talk about is their stock symbol is ROX. They're in Newfoundland. I've been trying to reach out to them, haven't been successful yet to arrange an interview. And why I started harassing them with the request is because of their last news release with drill results in it. Well, they had Camstar samples 289 grams from their Skitter target and engages gold spot discoveries for the Golden Bay exploration. This I find very encouraging. The news release that got my attention on November 4th was that they had several hits here. If you look, 2.9 meters of 13 grams, including 1 meter of 31 grams. That what really caught my attention because they again are looking for in Newfoundland a long, important deep-seated structures, and this is very early stages for a Newfoundland exploration company, and they still only have a $26 million valuation. 100 to a billion valuation is realistic in Newfoundland these days with all the success that's been out there. So I see a lot of blue sky ahead for these guys. You can see it in their stock chart as well. It's been recently made a bottom, and I think this is a good cup formation in development here, that the next big move, I think, could take them well above that 57-cent level. And I'm going to keep on these guys to try to get them into a Camstar Resources. ROX is their symbol. I want to get these guys on an interview because I want to dig deeper into the targets and what they've drilled and the sampling and the structures. So I'll keep on them to try to get an interview. Next up is Northwest NWST, Northwest Copper. Again, I'm bullish on copper, so I wanted to bring you a copper story. Their last news release out is just recently they announced that additional high-grade copper and gold porphyry results that included 100 meters of 1.91% copper and 71 meters of 2.64% copper. They are finding a higher grade. They've got this big disseminated resource that's seen a lot of drilling, but recently they've been finding, like, for example, 33% copper over 9.4 meters was on October the 27th. What they're finding is a new structure and new style of mineralization. And I'm very excited about that because when this project was part of Serengeti, they had a lot of their geophysics out, and you could see this big geophysical anomaly that they had never got down to. And they're sort of still on top of that big geophysical anomaly. But I find it very encouraging that they're hitting this high-grade copper and gold porphyry, and they're finding new structurally controlled mineralization. I think that if they keep going deeper, they could see this very high-grade copper, and that would make them a takeover target. I think even with what they've got, they could be a takeover target in the next year or two. But if they can show that they've got even a higher grade core inside of that big resource, that could get very exciting. Sorry, my English bulldog has decided to start making some noise and get into the show here. Excuse me. NWST is their stock symbol. Northwest Copper is their name. Not only do they have Quanica, they've also got another target that looks quite exciting. And so do your homework if you're bullish on copper like I am, because this one's high on my radar screen. Seeing as how I'm talking about copper, I might as well now switch to another copper story that I'm very bullish on, which is Candente Copper. I recently did an interview with Joey Freeze. These guys found and had a PEA in the last big copper cycle when gold was over $4 a pound. That PEA looks robust at over $2.50 a pound copper. The resource is 9 billion pounds of copper with 2 million ounces of gold. And they're currently trading for a fraction of a penny for that resource. And in the last 15 years, when copper companies have been bought out, they've been bought out at 1 to 3 cents per pound of copper in the ground when they're at the preliminary economic assessment level. Now, when I spoke to Joey in that recent interview that you can find on my YouTube page at Rocks and Stocks News on YouTube, go to the upload section and you'll see all the videos. They are able to bring, they're doing a new preliminary economic assessment to bring down their CapEx cost and their OpEx cost. And this, I think, will make them a target for a buyout at much higher valuations that they're currently sitting at. I think with copper, if it goes over $5 a pound in the next 6 months, which I think is going to happen, a 3 cent per pound copper resource for a preliminary economic assessment company that makes sense over $2.50 a pound, I think will be likely. And that's several multiples of their current valuation. So for those that are bullish on copper, there's a couple that I really like: Northwest Copper, NWST, and Candente Copper, DNT. Both have exciting projects, both have modest valuations relative to what they've got and what they're looking for. And I think in a stronger copper market, which is coming, I really like the potential for them to trade at multiples of what they're currently trading at. All right. Now, Newfound Gold. I'm sorry this is taking a little longer than usual, but I'm not sorry that I have a lot of companies to talk about, because I think gold is going higher, copper's going higher, lithium's going higher, and I wanted to bring you a bunch of companies that have recently had good news out. So the next on my list is Newfound Gold. NFG is their stock symbol. Let's go back to their chart, actually. They were a $3 stock 6, 7, 8 months ago that reached over $14, over $13 a share. They've given back about 50% of that, those gains. They've recently made a double bottom in what I think is a cup and handle formation. So this is a very bullish stock chart. And let's go look at a couple of their last releases. Go to the news section here. And in the news, on November 17th, so 5 days ago, they announced that they have updated the $48 million investment by Eric Sprott. What they're doing is it's a flow-through funding, flow-through financing, and these have a tax benefit. He was originally, when they announced this $48 million financing, it was at higher prices, and it was a standard hard dollar financing. Now they're moving it into a flow-through charity funding, which will help Eric Sprott, a billionaire, out on his taxes, but the price hasn't changed. So he's committed to this project, stays committed, put in $48 million. They bought back their royalty. That's another announcement. They should have some news out not too long into the future on using the Chrysos photon assay method, which uses entire core. It does, you don't have to split this core and hope that half of it makes it into the assay lab and the other half, which in these nuggety projects can be troublesome when you split the core. Sometimes you can leave the best stuff in the core box, and by using the entire core, using this photon assay method, it's like using an X-ray that analyzes the entire core, which is much more representative. And you don't need to average out your cut core. You can just send the whole thing in, which they've already done. It's already in the way. It takes a matter of days to use this method. So we could start seeing assays from that whole core photon assay method, maybe within the next week or two. So stay tuned for Newfound. They've sold off a lot. I think they're oversold. I like the chart action. As I spoke earlier, it's making a cup formation with a double bottom. And we're really close to that price of that recent double bottom. And I like the potential for that one to start performing much better when they get some assays out of that photon assay method at Chrysos in Australia. So that was Newfound Gold. The next company is another company I've recently interviewed, which is Chali Gold. XGC is their stock symbol. They only have a $9.16 million valuation. Go to my YouTube site, Rocks and Stocks News, and you'll find the recent interview for Chali, XALI, as the spelling of that company. The interview was with Joey Fries. And what we talked about was the combination of their exploration projects in Mexico and also in Newfoundland. Earlier, I talked about Marathon Gold and True Gold, True Precious Metals. Chali has the ground right in between those two. And they have found some really good, knock my microphone over. Their last news release just came out a few days, or actually it might have been, I think it was just on Thursday that they came out with that news. Let me bring that up. And it was regarding their Newfoundland project, November 18th, so 4 days ago. Windfall Geotech is engaged to assist in identifying drill targets on their Victoria property in Newfoundland. Windfall Geotech is one of these companies that uses machine learning to compile all of the geological data to then pump that through their machine learning algorithms to create targets. And they've found they've done a bunch of sampling in close proximity to that Valentine Lake shear zone, that deep structure. Again, I want to reiterate, that's how Marathon found their deposit, in close proximity to that big, deep shear structure, and they found gold at the surface. That's exactly what Chali has at their Newfoundland project. The project that I'm most excited about is their stuff in Mexico. In Mexico, they have a cluster of 50 veins. 2 of those veins produced over 8 million ounces of gold. And that whole area, including the veins that were mined, remains wide open for exploration. The depth is open, along strike is open, multiple veins are open, and a good place to look for new gold mines is where you have had an 8 million ounce gold producing mine operation. And this company only has a $9.16 million valuation. I'm very excited about what they're looking for. I think that they have the potential to find gold discoveries in Newfoundland and in Mexico. And they recently have been doing a private placement. I'm going to participate in that private placement, and that's going to give them money so that they can start drilling in Newfoundland and in Mexico, both places where it's low-cost exploration, drilling, and you can pretty much drill year-round in both those locations. And I think they're going to make some discoveries that is going to help their valuation get much higher. XGC is their stock symbol. Chali Gold Corp, that's spelled XALI, Gold Corp. Take a look at the recent interview I did with Joey Fries. Joey's a very talented geologist. She was with Arequipa, which was a massive discovery that she was the qualified person for that. And they went from exploration to take over in less than a year and a half. They went from 30 cents to $30. And then that mine has been a cornerstone mine for Barrick. And so she knows what it takes to make important discoveries. She has a couple of great projects. I think this is a ridiculously cheap valuation. And with drilling in the near future for both those projects, I think that cheap valuation is not going to be around for very much longer. So that was XGC. The next company I want to talk about is Fireweed Zinc. Fireweed Zinc has been drilling for a couple years on a very exciting zinc project in the Yukon. And again, I recently did an interview with their CEO, and you can find that at Rocks and Stocks News on YouTube. And what I talked with him about was the potential that this disseminated zones of stacked lenses with high-grade zinc in it, that I think is going to be a future mine, is the potential that as they move closer to the plumbing system or the heat engine of what caused that zinc mineralization, is there potential that this could be copper rich. And the reason that I talked about that is VMS deposits often have zonation of grade. As you get far away from the heat engine, you get zinc and lead and zinc grades, which they have. Now they're moving closer to the heat engine. And guess what they just announced? On November 18th, they announced that they hit 1.54% copper and 5.42% zinc with gold, silver, and silver in there as well, over 203 meters in step out hole at their boundary zone. So as they move closer to the heat engine, they get copper. And as you go deeper, what you'll often see in a VMS system is copper gold. So as you get away from it, you see zinc and silver. As you get closer to the heat engine, you see copper and gold. And Brandon McDonald, who is the CEO, stated, and I quote, "These intriguing drill results show a new style of mineralization and brings copper into the mix at the boundary zone. This is an encouraging sign of the system becoming hotter as we continue to expand the known zone of mineralization with more and more step-outs. This is the first discovery of meaningful copper grades in core at the McMillan Pass project, and we are excited to follow up on this new style of copper zinc mineralization in the coming drill programs," end quote. So there you go again. As they move closer to the heat engine, they're starting to see copper zinc. And that's sort of one of the transitions that you see in the zonation of a VMS deposit. You see zinc and silver farthest away from the heat engine. Now they're moving closer and they're seeing copper zinc. Next, you're probably going to see, as they get even closer to the heat engine, that is likely structurally controlled. We talked about that in the interview. They will likely start to see copper and gold. And that gets very exciting. These VMS deposits, when they get big, they can have very big zones of copper and gold. And that's what makes big VMS mines. And the distribution of their zinc and silver far away from the heat engine is indicative of a very powerful mineralizing system, such as a big VMS system. I think that's what's in their future. And that's another one on my list of copper, zinc, base metal projects that you want to keep an eye on. They still have a very modest valuation relative to what they found. I think they've already found a zinc mine. They only have a 46 high-grade zinc mine. They only have a $46 million valuation, and that high grade is close to surface, so it's open pittable. But now they are adding the potential for a VMS plumbing system with copper gold rich. This shouldn't have a $46 million valuation, and I really like their potential. FWZ is their stock symbol, and I think you should take a close look at FWZ. Now, early in the show, I talked about Pretium as a great pick in my reports. Went from $3 to $18 as a takeout. I think that those guys are going to get even a bigger offer. And that brings to mind the next, which is a new pick for me in the reports. And these guys are called P2 Gold. And that's an interesting play because the guys that found and helped develop the Pretium mine and discovery are the ones who are running P2 Gold. So I think the play is that they're looking for the next Pretium. And I want to get in on these guys before any excitement. And so this is my Pretium 2 play, if you will. I started the show talking about Pretium, and I'm going to end the show talking about a new company run by the same guys that were involved with Pretium 1, if you will. And now they've got P2 Gold. PGLD is their stock symbol. Their key projects, one is the GABS project in Nevada, and then they have the BAM project up in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia, which is where Pretium 1 is. And at GABS in Nevada, it's very exciting. I think they've got the makings of an open pit target with the potential. There's already been a resource on it, and it has the potential to expand quite dramatically. And they also have their BAM project, which it looks like they are figuring that project out as well. And so these guys can have good funding. They've got great projects. They're in Nevada. They're in the Golden Triangle as well. Recently, they were at the Metals Investors Forum. Go to Metals Investors Forum. I think you can just look at their YouTube site and you'll find Metals Investors Forum on there as well. But they were invited to that conference by John Kaiser, who was one of the speakers. And John Kaiser and their two key people, their VP Exploration, the guy who found the Pretium discovery that then became a mine, and he and Ken McNaughton and their CEO spoke with John Kaiser. You want to get a listen to that because they do a great job of explaining why they think that they've got two exciting discoveries in the making. And I invite you to check that out. As they do more drilling, I think they're going to deliver a lot of good results. They only have a $43 million valuation. P1, if you will, Pretium, was bought out for several billion dollars. These guys know how to hunt big stuff. They know how to find big stuff. They know how to put it into production. And P2 Gold, PGLD is their stock symbol. I think I'm going to be talking a lot about this company. I've reached out to management. I want to have an interview with them. They're kind of marquee guys, so I don't know if they'll come onto my humble interviews. I hope they do, because I want to really dig deep into their projects and what makes them think that they can be the next Pretium, maybe even a bigger success story than Pretium. that remains to be seen, but it's early days, ground floor for P2 Gold. I think that they're going to be another one like that I followed from early in their success, which was Pretium. I followed it all the way, recommended it multiple times, probably at an average of about $6 or $7 a share. They recently got the buyout for 18. I think these guys are going to do it again. And we're starting at the ground floor with these guys. So PGLD, take a look at them. Sorry I ran so long, but I had a lot of great companies to talk about, including this new PGLD. So let me stop my screen share. There you go, folks. I think gold's headed higher. I think silver's headed higher. I think copper's headed higher. I think lithium's headed higher. I gave you a bunch of companies to put on your shopping list and do your homework on. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, do that homework, because I think what you're going to find is a bunch of companies that can move up higher because their commodities they're looking for are headed higher. These guys all have great projects. And I think that there's a double whammy for new valuations. The movement in gold, silver, copper, and lithium, plus success with the drill rig, the truth machine. So do your homework, and we'll speak with you soon. Have a great day.